Hi guys, today we're going to talk about sliding scales. So you all probably know what a sliding scale is, but what it is it's a fee that offers services based on the customer's ability to pay. So such fees are thereby maybe reduced for those who have lower incomes or have less money to spare after all their personal expenses, regardless of their income level. So people offer a sliding scale because they want to be able to provide services at the same level of care across the board, maybe for those who have fewer resources available to them. The big question a lot of times when starting a practice or building a practice is, should I offer sliding scale spots to my prospective clients or should I not? So we're going to kind of go through some of those. So if you are going to use a sliding scale, you really want to think through the reasons of why you're going to use one. So you don't really want to just use a sliding scale to fill up your practice. So if you're just thinking about offering a sliding scale because you think it's going to get more people in the door, be really careful about that, because once those calls turn into intakes, maybe those intakes turn into clients, and then you have a consistent caseload of sliding scale clients that you didn't really want, when you do end up getting full fee clients calling you or insurance-based clients calling you and you don't have any space to take them on, there is a possibility that you may end up resenting those current sliding scale clients, and that's just not a good scenario to be in. So the suggestion of doing a sliding scale is only if you really want to offer services and work with those individuals who have less resources, not because you feel like you have to offer one. I've heard a lot of people say that they feel like they have to offer a sliding scale, especially if they're on the phone with someone and they ask, hey, do you have a sliding scale? That's not right. The decision to take a sliding scale is yours, and you aren't the only therapist in town. So if you're on the phone with someone and they express needs for a sliding scale and for whatever reason you don't have one, then give them the name of a colleague who does have a sliding scale position open, or who has lower fees than you. There's lots of individuals in the office space I know that do offer a sliding scale. So don't just make up that you offer one now and now offer someone a reduced fee when you don't, just because you felt pressured. And also, like, if you don't offer a sliding scale, that doesn't mean anything about you or your business. It just means it's a decision that you made for your business, just kind of like the decisions that you make about what clients you want to see and the decisions on what color you want your business cards to be. For some reason, it just feels a little bit different because it's about money and we've all got money issues. But if you are going to take a sliding scale, you definitely need to figure out what that's going to be. So there's a couple different ways to do it. Some people just have like a set fee for everyone that they offer. Some people base it on like the household income. Some people are just a little bit more flexible with it. So if you did a set fee for everyone, that pretty much would be like, my full fee is $100 per session, but my sliding scale fee is $40 a session, regardless of who you are and why you need it. Sometimes people do, like, my sliding scale is $30 less than my full fee, so that can account for if you raise your rates in the future, then that just means your sliding scale raises as well. Some people base it on like a household income, so if you do like kind of annual income times 0.001, that will give you, like, if you bring in $50,000 a year, then we're going to charge you $50 a session for the sliding scale. And then sometimes more flexible, which is what I do, is just a little bit more conversationally based about what they can afford. Typically the client can come up with that number and then you can figure out if that works for you or not. But that does mean that sometimes your sliding scale sometimes a sliding scale client may be at $75 an hour and sometimes they may be at $30 an hour. So on the realms of you keeping track of things, it's just a little bit more on your end, but if you have an EHR, then it'll just keep track of it for you. I've seen multiple people, like in Louisville, that offer sliding scales from like pro bono to $10 a session to $20 less than their full fee, which maybe still is like $130 or so, $150. So the sliding scale range is huge. You've just got to decide what you want your scale to be for your practice. And just remember that it has to work for you in your practice, and this is your business. So you've got to find something that jives with you and for your clientele. Personally, again, I just have a discussion with each of my clients. A lot of my sliding scale spots right now are actually some clients that I had that were full fee, had some circumstances that happened to where they couldn't afford my full fee anymore, but they wanted to stay with me. So we just had that conversation to figure out what they could afford and what they can't afford weekly. And then we just kind of bookmarked that for the future to continue having that conversation to make sure the rates work for us down the road if we continue working with each other. After kind of figuring out what you want your sliding scale to be, you have to determine who's going to be able to use your sliding scale. So this is really important to figure out before you start getting calls, because if not, you may just start offering your sliding scale to anyone who pauses after hearing your full fee, and that just isn't the right way to go about offering sliding scale to people. And I mean, if you think about it in the sense of if you were at the checkout and the cashier told you that your total was $100, and just because you didn't immediately say okay, he or she was like, oh, okay, no, but I can give it to you for $80. Almost 100% of us are going to be like, okay, I'll pay $80 and I'll leave. We've got to allow our clients the time to respond before jumping at them with a lower price. If we offer a sliding scale in our practice, we're going to offer it to people, and so trusting ourselves that we're going to offer it to people if we have openings, but we want to make sure that we're offering it to the individuals that need it, and we're not just offering it because we're not comfortable with our full fee rates, which that's a whole nother topic that we could get into, and maybe will be a video in the future. But again, checking yourself that if you're offering sliding scale positions to people because you're not comfortable with your full fee rate or feel like it's too high, use that reflection time to kind of check in on yourself about that. My criteria, honestly, for sliding scale positions is typically just a client telling me that they can't afford my rates. I trust that they have a better understanding of their finances than I do, and then we have a conversation about that, exploring this a little bit further. And then, you know, of course, if I have a sliding scale spot open, then I offer it to them, and we figure out on a price that they can afford. I usually allow the client to come up with the number again, and depending on what it is, I go from there. At the time, I currently won't slide lower than half of my full fee, but who knows, maybe in the future, and based on clients' needs, that'll change, and that's okay. I don't tend to like really dig deeper into why and so forth they can't afford my full fee. Some therapists do. Some will even require proof of income or expenses and so forth. But yeah, I just don't do that, but totally cool if you do. Just depends on kind of how you want to navigate that. Just keep in mind when we're thinking about clients' income that we're also factoring in their expenses. So there's a lot of times that people maybe make a lot of money or make more money than we do, but they also have a lot of expenses. So they still end up in the red, meaning just because you make $100,000 a year doesn't mean that they can afford all these things. Maybe they have 3 kids and are paying off student loans and have, you know, elder parents to care for and X, Y, and Z. So really making sure we're keeping that criteria or those expenses of income into our criteria. And remember that kind of like when you're on a consultation call and before scheduling an intake, if a client does, like if a client doesn't meet criteria for your sliding scale, that doesn't mean that they're not going to meet criteria for someone else's sliding scale. So if they can't afford your full fee and can't afford your sliding scale spot, or maybe just don't meet the criteria, it's important to have a handful of referrals on hand, again, so you can pass them along to that individual who is struggling to find a counselor that they can see and afford, and so forth. Again, if you are going to take a sliding scale position, on top of how much you're going to charge for it and what your scale is going to look like and what the criteria is, you also want to figure out how many sliding scale spots you're going to have on your caseload. So I personally set aside 3 spots for my practice, but some clinicians have an entire caseload of sliding scale, and others set maybe a limit to how many sliding scales they're going to take. So maybe 1 client, 2 clients, 3 clients, 4 clients, whatever, based on the size of your caseload. Personally, I just think it's easier for me to set it to a limit, because then when I'm doing my projected income, brain-wise, math-wise, it's just easier for me to actually project my income in the future. And then just average, in a sense, what my sliding scales are to figure out what I'm making month to month or in the future. If you have a full caseload of sliding scales, that just looks a little bit different, because you may have clients paying wildly different fees. You know, maybe you have a client paying $30 a session, but you have a client paying $80 a session based off what your scale is. So that's kind of hard to project your income month to month, but it's definitely done and a ton of people do it. It's just a little different math equation to figuring out what your income will be. If you're having a hard time deciding if you want to take a sliding scale, Open Path Collective is a really great site to check out. It's like just a fantastic company for mental health professionals to use that streamlines the sliding scale process for you. So Open Path generates referrals for you to fill your sliding scale spots, advertises your practice profile for free, and then it enhances your ability to serve that community for a reduced fee. Again, don't just join Open Path Collective for a free directory site because you want more clients. Join it if you really want to fill those with sliding scale spots and really believe in their mission and enjoy what they're doing and the services they're help connecting people with. And again, if you're not going to offer a sliding scale, then so be it. You're not going to offer a sliding scale, but make sure that you have, again, a handful of referrals and resources to send people to. If they do call you, they can't pay your full fee and you're not on the panel for their insurance company, just make sure you can hand them off to someone that is going to be able to meet their needs financially or whatever it may be. And also, you can always send people as a referral, hey, I can't meet your needs because of X, Y, and Z, but go check out openpathcollective.com. They've got tons of therapists in the area who can meet your needs. And for a client, for Open Path Collective, essentially all they have to do is get approved. But if they have financial need, they're going to get approved, and they have to pay I think it's like $50 or maybe $100 lifetime membership. But then they get access to reduced fee therapy sessions wherever they are in the nation. So I think for individual sessions, it's like you get locked into seeing a therapist for $40 or $60. And I think for couples, it's between like $80 and $40 maybe. But essentially the client, it's a benefit for the client and the therapist because it's free for a therapist to be on there and get referrals. And then it's a very affordable rate for the client to log in there and then have access to lots of therapists. And it essentially looks like a Psych Today directory where they can go in and pick who they want to see and message people and so forth. That's kind of it. That's a little bit of a rundown on sliding scale. If you have any questions about sliding scale or anything like that, let me know or put it in the comments or anything like that. I'll put some resources in the comments to help people out sliding scale wise. But yeah, okay.